So, hello. Welcome to another version of Workbench, our weekly events where we try to share the insight and provide very useful and concrete tools for entrepreneurs to build their businesses more successfully, more concretely, and to gain the traction. As a short intro before we dive into the topic, the workbenches, as I said, are aimed to provide you specific tools and trades and tips and tricks on building your business. Our idea is actually through the events that we organize on weekly level, is to actually connect you guys as well in between each other. That's why after every workbench, which is very connected event where we try to kind of engage you as well, so it's not like a front-end lecture where you do something and then you sit and you're like, okay, cool. So engagement is very cool and we appreciate that, that's one. And the second, after the event, we're going to be networking on the terrace. So all the questions that are not answered in the conversation itself is going to be moved to terrace with some freshly brewed actually craft beer that arrived just today. So we're going to try that, and also some domestic wines. So that's an invitation to the terrace afterwards. And in case you want to know more about Impact Lab, in case you are not already familiar with it, you can grab me or some of my colleagues afterwards. We're going to be here. And so, diving deep now into the topic and getting a small intro to Shawn. As you know, it's a very tricky business to do a business, and actually the point is when we're trying to make a traction between what we would like to do as a business, so we have some entrepreneurial idea, concept, a funky feeling which says, oh, this can work or this can be a good business, and on the other side, actually market wants, but not market as some very distinct point, but rather a person who's actually buying our product or service. So actually trying to fit the need with the problem we're trying to solve and actually making that happen, in real by the highest percent possible and not actually that hitting us in the head is very important. So the customer discovery, customer development as a process is a key to it. And we, preach that in our programs, and Shawn will definitely dive deep into the whole thing. So without further ado, Shawn, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
So we're gonna cover this topic of customer development. Does anybody know what customer development is? Before we get started, what am I doing here? And also too, does anybody know? I know you know because we talked about it before. Even those who pioneered it. Yes, customer development.
Yeah, from my point basically developing process and journey for customer. So from creating persona, like your customer persona, and then how that actual persona is like what is the journey they have from first approaching your brand to buying, basically, and everything in between. How do you, and then you develop your products or your customers, like to get or your target group, or develop your product based on the target group. It's kind of like two-way streets.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely involves some type of conversation with customers. Absolutely. Does anybody know a guy by the name of Steve Blank or Eric Rees? Those two guys. Okay. So those two guys are kind of Steve Blank is the guy who kind of founded the idea of customer development or doing customer development work to basically increase your chance of success during this process, essentially. So we know a lot about entrepreneurship at this point. We've had a lot of entrepreneurs go through this process and things are starting to emerge of, okay, what works and what doesn't work, and what are some of the best practices that we can start to employ to make sure that our ventures actually are viable, desirable, and feasible. Right? So the customer development process is really this process of how do we engage customers and have a conversation with them in order to create something that is actually valuable to them, that we can actually build a business off of, right? And really getting down to this idea of, do we have an exchange of value here that's happening? Do we know what value is, and are we providing enough of it to create this exchange, right? And then start to measure that concretely and really create this, like you said, this conversation. Okay, so that's kind of a nutshell. And then I'll give you a little bit of an overview of who I am. So you're like, who the hell is this guy talking about? Customer development. What does he do? How do I know I should listen to him, right? So we're just going to talk a little bit about what I really my expectations for what hopefully you guys take away from this. And a little bit of theory and some application of my background and how I've applied customer development and the tools that I've used and some of the learnings that I've had in that conversation. And what works and what doesn't work and what I've seen. And then I'm going to ask you guys to have a little conversation with yourselves about where you're at in the process and how it's going. I tend to get really excited about this stuff and speak really quickly. And I know maybe English for some of you is not your first language, so please just ask me to slow it down. So you can do that. Okay, a little bit about me. I started in finance, actually. I was doing corporate finance for a semiconductor equipment manufacturer for a few years. So I have a very solid base of how businesses get made at the corporate level for a Fortune 500 company. It's not pretty usually. It's very, it's very numbers driven. And yeah, it was a really great learning process for me, and I draw a lot on that today in helping organizations and companies build their businesses. And also, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and so I do that as well too. And then I got more the life of spreadsheets and cubes and finance wasn't for me. I like people, I like interacting with people, and so I completely switched gears and started doing internal communication strategy and marketing strategy for another very large global multinational called Cisco Systems. Worked with them for about 10 years doing internal marketing strategy, communication strategy, getting people to talk. Actually, and getting people to actually communicate, not actually talk, but to actually communicate, listen to each other, using design and the power of design and how that actually plays a role in creating conversations across silos. Which led me to a program in San Francisco. So I'm born and raised in Silicon Valley and spent my life there, was educated there. I found an MBA program in design strategy, it's called. And so it was taking design thinking process and sustainability in business and trying to match them together. So how do we create sustainable businesses? How do we solve complex systems challenges using design thinking? My marketing professor hired me, and we built an innovation firm in San Francisco, working for companies like Intel, Carhartt, Chrysler, eBay, solving their innovation challenges, solving their strategy issues, using design thinking. So applying this kind of very customer-centric process to understanding what to do next for them. And I said, okay, this is great solving their problems, but it's not interesting. Their willingness to change and their desires to actually do some actual good in the world wasn't really aligned with where and how I wanted to apply my effort. So I said, okay, how do I take this process and take this knowledge and build something of my own? So I was asked to join a startup in San Francisco as Chief Innovation Officer, working through exactly this process that I'm going to talk to you about. How do you engage customers to build a business? And aligning product market fit with the business model, with product feature set, and actually creating something that actually is, again, desired by the market. So I've used this actual process as an entrepreneur, and I'm currently doing it again with another company in Vienna. So we're trying to measure the emotional intelligence of teams and make emotional intelligence actionable. So we know that psychological safety is the #1 factor for highly effective teams. So we're trying to measure that, and we're trying to make that actionable, make that matter to organizations. Okay, so that's something that I'm working on currently. So I've got a lot of experience in this space of collaboration, in this space of innovation, and how do you make innovation go both within organizations and outside of organizations. A pretty refined point of view about how to prioritize efforts to do that. So, if I don't cover your questions during this talk, please ask me afterwards or on the terrace, or if you want to know more about any of those other things, let me know. I'm happy to talk more about that. Okay, good. So what I really want you guys to walk away with is really understanding the importance of actually engaging stakeholders. And I'm going to broaden it to beyond customers, because if you're really doing social innovation, it's ecosystem based. You're not doing one-to-one exchange usually. Yeah? There are multiple players, there are multiple people that you need to deliver value to, and so I use the word stakeholder, because I think it's more fitting. There is a priority in which you engage those stakeholders, but you need to engage multiple stakeholders usually. So whether it be a behavioral beneficiary, whether it be an NGO, whether it be a government agency, whether it be an investor, you've got multiple people to entertain. More so than you would if you were just doing a traditional, B2C, regular, consumer-centric startup, right? Those are easier in mind. Easier. Those are easier. And then how do we effectively do that? There are some rules that I will share with you. I've done a lot of ethnographies. I've been in a lot of people's homes and I've asked them a lot of questions. And I've gone shopping with people. I've watched people shop. I've followed them through wherever, all over the place. I've watched them play games with each other. I've watched them interact with each other. And I've tried to translate that then into strategy, into, okay, what does that mean for our business? How do we acquire them? How do we deliver products and services that actually are meaningful to them, right? So I've done this translation process. So maybe been on 1,000 ethnographies, conducted 800 of them myself. So, so I know some rules of how to kind of talk with customers and what works and what doesn't work. And I'll share some of those. If I don't answer those questions, please jump in. You guys, anytime you have questions or something's interesting, please feel free to interrupt. No problem. Okay. So has anybody seen this slide before? I don't know how many of you have seen this. You've seen this? Okay. So this is done by Spotify. How many of you guys know Spotify? They're pretty successful. They're doing okay. So this is essentially, customer development. What does the customer want to do, right? They want to move from point A to point B. All right, how do we best do that? How do we deliver something that's valuable to them and learn about that, and how do we do it better? How do we do it better? So we're creating this learning cycle of how to more effectively move them from point A to point B, essentially, right? So what are you trying to do for your customer? What are you trying to do for them? What do they need done, and how do you do that best? And then how do you learn how to do that over time, right? So this is theoretically what this looks like, this process of customer development. And I don't know if you've heard the word MVP. This is also an idea of how to create an MVP and learn. I just ran across this term and I actually really like it. I think this gets you to think a little bit more about your customer. This is a little bit more product-centric, which I think Steve Blank is a bit more product-centric. This is a bit more customer-centric. What do they need to do and how can we solve it really simply? And do they like it? And does it work? Yeah. And I think Spotify did a really good job here with kind of this, more on this side. If you create something really crappy and nobody uses it, expectations are really high now with customers about what they will and won't engage with because they've seen a lot of stuff, right? So it's tricky. It's a really tricky thing. So if you're trying to solve a lot of problems for somebody or you're not really clear what you're trying to do for them, then sometimes it's not so simple. It gets really complex. And it's pretty viable and maybe not so nice. So there's some thinking that you need to do about how to actually solve people's problems simply that they actually like it and it's actually complete. It actually does the thing that you say it's going to do, right? And they actually need that thing done. So that's Also, a big part of the customer development process is where do I start? And how do I engage them? And why do they want to be engaged with me? Right? So, in reality, this is what it theoretically looks like. This is what it looks like in reality, right? It's a goddamn mess. And you're running around and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I do this? And it feels like this usually as well, too, right? But there are two main goals that you're still trying to do, right? You're trying to reduce the risk. You're trying to increase buy-in. That's your job as an entrepreneur, really. So as you're going through this learning process, as you're going through this messy process, we're actually still trying to create something that people actually want to use. And it feels like this, because I'm in the middle of it now. You're like, okay, what do we do? And how do we align ourselves? And what's important? And where do we put resources? Are you have limited resources? You've got limited time? How do you most effectively apply that in a way that gets you the outcomes that you need, right? This is a really important thing. So, some things I've learned about going through this process, this messy, crazy thing. Your customers really don't care about what you're doing or your technology. I know that's a really hard thing for some entrepreneurs. They like to think that they're doing really great stuff. Ultimately, what your customer cares about is what they care about, what they're trying to do, right? What pain do they have? What problem are they trying to solve? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to move from point A to point B? What are they trying to do, and how are you helping them do that? Right? And that involves actually having a conversation. If you're too fixated about your idea, then you lose track of actually what they care about and what you're actually doing for them, right? So I see this a lot. So Intel came to us and they said, look, nobody's using this product, right? It's a ridiculous product that connected your computer wirelessly to some TV, and they ran their own study, right? They went into a lab and they put everybody in a lab and they said, here's all the tools that you need and go set it up. Everybody set it up and they came to us, and as we're reading through the results, they said, look, everybody loves this tool, but nobody's using it, why not? And I said, well, how did you guys design this study? How did you design this thing? And he was like, well, we have the best technology on the market and it works really well, and okay, great. What do people do with it? Well, it's like they all set it up and it worked perfectly fine. I said, when in real life does somebody hand you everything you need and ask you to go set it up? It's like, it doesn't happen that way. You've got to research, you've got to figure out, okay, what do I need? It had like 4 or 5 different components that you needed. You had to have one thing here, you had to have one thing in TV, you had to have the right driver installed, but they handed them everything already ready to go, right? In real life, that doesn't happen, right? So you've got to conduct studies or create experiments that actually mimic people's real behavior, right? Because if you ask them something or you give them a survey to fill out, you guess what people are going to do if you say, do you want to use my new thing? You like it? What are you going to say? Yeah, shit. That's great. Yeah, if you send them a survey and you say, hey, fill this out. What do you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you think about my thing? People are really, especially if you ask them about their future state, they're really optimistic about how they perceive themselves in the future and what it is that they're going to do in the future. Okay? So what we want to do is figure out ways to ground our assumptions in real behavior, right? In real customer behavior. I've seen it. We did a study with Gen Zs also for Intel as well. And we asked them, is privacy a big issue for you? Right? Do you care about your data? Do you care about what people are doing with your data? What do you think they said?
Of course.
Yeah, do you guys care about your data? Does it change your behavior on social media? Do you actually change your behavior because of it?
Absolutely.
Sometimes?
Absolutely. All the time.
All the time. Okay. So yeah, there's going to be segments, right? The majority of people, yeah, there's going to be segments of people that do care, and some people are going to change their behavior, and some people aren't, right? So they're actually not predicated on the fact that they care about their data or not. It's predicated on the fact of what their social network's actually doing, right? And do they feel isolated from their social network or not? It doesn't matter about the data, right? So you've got to create and understand the behavior of your customers and why or why not they can engage with certain things, or why don't they engage with other things, right? So this is why this is important, right? How do we create ways to learn about what people will and won't do from a behavioral standpoint? And customer development is really about grounding it in real customer behavior. Steve said, look, we need to get, how do we set up metrics to see if people are actually doing what we say they're going to do and what we need them to do in order to build this business, right? And I had in my, I was taking a business models class, and our teacher happened to be, Steve Blake happened to be his mentor. So he asked Steve, hey, can you come in and talk to our business models class? While at the same time, Alexander Olsterwalder was also, he's also guiding the business model campus. So him and Alex, so Steve Blank and Alexander Olsterwalder were in front of our business models class, and they were talking to us about the relationship between the customer development process and the business model canvas. And we're design thinking students, and we're thinking about how do we, use this very highly chaotic, iterative process to solve these business challenges, and we're listening to these two talk about the interaction between these two things. And basically what Steve and Alex were talking about is you can use the business model canvas as a checkbox with specific indicators for each box to say, okay, are we achieving those things that we say that we're going to do? And we test the assumptions that we have in each box. So we have a list of assumptions, right, about what customers will and won't do. And then we test it. We create experiments and we test it, right? So are you creating that? Are you creating tests to figure out how people are engaging with your products or services or not? Right? It's really important because we want to be right? We want to be right. We want our thing to work. We want everybody to love it. And I know, and it's super hard to put on this new hat and say, okay, I have to take a really objective view about my business, yeah? And actually listen. And actually try and not sell somebody or validate that my idea is right, but try to understand what's valuable and how to deliver it. Okay, it's a totally different reframe. It's slightly different. It's slightly different reframe, but it's a really important one. And as an entrepreneur, that's one of the hardest things that I see. Yeah, people are unwilling to give up they're unwilling to give this up. They're unwilling to give up their idea, and they'll just take the whole boat down with it. The whole company will go down because they're just unwilling to give this up. Because they're not looking for insight. They're looking to be validated if they're right or not. And it's totally irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because what they care about is, are you delivering value to them? And do they find what you're doing valuable? Period. Okay? What's the job that they're trying to do? Are you helping them do that? Okay? So, that's a lot, but I'm going to keep talking about it because this is again a tool that you can use, right, to try and understand. This is the value proposition canvas. This is product, market, fit. How do we get these two things? This is a conversation that we're having, right? You're on this side, and you're creating these products and services, and they're on this side, and they got stuff to do, right? But I'm saying there's another thing that's underneath this, right? Their fears, their motivations, their desires, their wants, the things that they're not going to tell you in a survey. You're not going to find out this stuff in the survey. You've got to get in front of them, and you've got to go talk.
Can I?
Yeah, please, absolutely. This is great.
Where would you exactly put these fears, motivation, desires in value proposition canvas? Is it about
right here?
Additional element in these three.
I think it just frames the context of their world, right? So you want to understand the context of your customer's world because this is what's framing it. Okay? Yeah. And this drives then the motivations, this drives their behavior. Right? And so if your product or service is not aligned with what is it they will and won't do, then you're going to miss it. It's either not positioned right or the product feature set isn't aligned to what they're actually trying to do. Right? And they might tell you something. And Steve Jobs said, well, customer doesn't know what they want. I kind of agree, they don't. They don't know that they want. However, they do know the context of their world. And they do know what they don't want. And they do know what they don't want to experience. Okay? And those things you can easily get at. Okay? It takes a really highly evolved, self-aware individual to articulate what it is they want. And we don't have a lot of those, unfortunately, in the world. Like that more. I think it's coming, but at the moment, we don't have a lot. So you've got to create experiments to test real behavior, right? So you've got to set it up as naturally as possible, or you've got to just go get really curious about your customer. Or all the above.
Basically, like we're creating what's like an experience.
Let's give it now. Who's your customer?
Bearded guys.
Great. Perfect. Ask me some questions. Your customer.
That's why we're using already some beard oils because they have amazing beard
I do. Beard oil.
oils. Do they have perfume boxes?
They do not. What else? What else do you want to ask me?
Does your beard oils give you a perfume concept experience and have more than just scale?
No.
No.
No. I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. I haven't tried anything. I just use coconut oil.
No. Coconut oil is one.
Okay, so look, the thing is that's a little tricky one. Yeah, you want to understand. First off, maybe even before the bearded conversation begins, why do you grow a beard? What's my motivation for having a beard? Doesn't matter. Yeah. So you want to understand context, right? You don't want to go jump right into the product. You want to understand the context of their world. Okay. Because we want to jump right into trying, again, it's okay because this is what we want to validate that what we're doing is right. Okay, but we don't want to understand what's valuable to our customer. We first got to understand what's valuable to me. And why it's, what is it, right? I'm just lazy, I don't feel like shaving every day. So it just gets out of hand. So it just ends up like this. But yeah, I don't think smelling good is part of the things that matter to me. I think it's yeah. So maybe that's not the right positioning, right? So you got to understand from your particular target group what it matters, because you're fixated on the technology and the product, but maybe that doesn't matter to you. So the positioning and how you're communicating it, or what it does doesn't fit what I need or what I value. Okay, so you just gotta go listen to what I value, okay? Again, and the more that we can model it in real behavior, in real life, the better, right? So the closer that we can get it to what's actually happening in the market, the better, right? So sometimes you have to build something, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can use a competitor, right? Great way. Take a competitor website, open it up, and ask them a series of questions. Ask them to use it. Ask them to show you what it is they like about it, or what they don't like about it, or why they're using it, or why they're not using it, or how they're clicking it, or don't say anything, just watch them. Even better. Yeah? And say, hey, can you use this site for me? I'm curious. Right? So, a lot of different ways that you can do it without actually having to build something. And you can mimic a lot of experiments. Okay, good. Right, so we want to get into this exchange of value with our customers, because without it, we don't have a model, right? So it's really important to engage your customers and understand what's valuable, and doing that in the most real way as possible. Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay. I'm sure there's some coming up. Please, and if you're too afraid to ask something, I'll be out there roaming around and coming to find people. Okay? Because, yeah, we got to get to this exchange of value, right? Am I delivering enough value for you to engage with me in an exchange, right? You got something about it, I got something about it, let's swap it. Good. So how do we get to this quicker, right? We got to go out and listen. We actually have to listen to what our customers not only are saying, but what they're not saying, and watch what they're doing, yeah, and what they're not doing. Surveys are not enough. I'm sorry, they're just not enough. It's not enough to give you the context that you need in order to deliver something. You've got to go put product in front of them. You've got to go create experiments, and you've got to go listen. Okay. And we have to get away from trying to be right. Right? We don't need to validate what you're doing. You need to understand what's valuable to your customers and how to deliver that. Okay? Is that clear? Because that's really the only point that I want you guys to take away. Right? Okay? So we're not getting fixated on an idea, on technology, and you know what? It's really hard. And that's why being an entrepreneur is really hard. Because it's scary, and you got to be vulnerable, and you got to put yourself out there, and you might be wrong. Actually, you're going to be wrong. Because if you were right, you'd be doing it, right? You'd be working. You wouldn't be sitting in the class. You'd be up here. You'd be doing it, right? So, it's going to be wrong. So that's why we have to reframe this idea of being right to learning. How do we test, right? Think of it as an experiment. Think of it, how do we test something? Not, is this the right thing to do, right? How do we test it? And how do we create a learning loop within our organization where we can quickly, rapidly test to learn what's valuable and what's not? What people are willing to exchange with us and what they're not willing to exchange with us, and why? And then develop a better product or service to, again, create that exchange. Okay? That's the core essence of product market fit or customer development, right? Because if we deeply understand what it is our customer needs and wants and what they value, we know where to reach them, we know how to reach them, we know what channels are effective, we know which channels aren't effective, we know how they want to be talked to, we know how they don't want to be talked to, we know how to position a product, okay? And all of those things will then, you'll internalize your marketing strategy, right? You'll internalize how to most effectively reach them and acquire them and convert them. Yeah? Because you know them intimately. You know their context, you know why or why not they make decisions, and you know what's valuable to them, and you know how to deliver it. Okay? So, and you just get more nuanced and better at it as you do it more. Okay? And then you can expand. Right? Be really focused, be really targeted, find a core group of people that you can do something for, solve their problem, and see where you can exchange value with. Okay? Avoid thinking you have the matter figured out. Okay? In the game of entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. Okay? Are you learning? Are you delivering? Are you creating more value for them? Okay? Or more stakeholders, right? If you've got one stakeholder nailed down, then you can go on to the next one. Okay? Employees. What are you doing for your employees? Are you creating value for them? What are you doing for the earth? What are you doing for community? What are you doing for investors, right? So there's a whole pen tab. Carol Stafford wrote a great book called Responsible Business, right? And she prioritizes these stakeholders in a particular way. So if you've got one stakeholder figured out, and you think you've got them figured out, you move on to the next one. Right? You're never done. Especially in social business. You create virtuous cycle businesses, you're never done delivering value. You always have new value to create for new stakeholders. Okay? So you're never done doing this, and that's why the process is so important. Not the thing that you're doing. It's the process of learning and delivering the value and creating a context or an organization that quickly learns what to do and how to do it more effectively. Yeah. Okay? So you're creating the conditions in which learning can happen. As a leader, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's leading an organization, your job is to create these learning loops and create what's valuable to these people, how do you deliver it, put people in a position to do that, okay? But it starts with product market fit. It's the first thing you should be focused on. If you're building a 5-year financial plan and you don't have product market fit, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a waste of resources, okay? You've got to focus on trying to figure out what that looks like. You've got to say, okay, can this model self-sustain? That's a different question, okay, than having a 5-year detailed plan. Right? That's a different question. But we should be focusing on trying to figure out if we have a product market fit, okay? Yeah. And you gotta go talk to them. You don't know what's valuable to them until you actually go ask them. Or you go get in front of them. Or you go create an experiment with them to see, okay, and ask them. I just recently worked with a telecom company who's expanding from Germany into Austria. They're a social business. So they donate some of the profit from the telecom operations to charities. And they were expanding into Austria, and they were divided. Some of the senior partners, these are really high level, they hold executive positions in Telecom Austria, A1, they've set up subsidiaries in Macedonia, and CMOs, and they've got a lot of experience doing this work of telecom game. Okay? And so they had two founders, and they thought they were at competing strategies in figuring out how to do this. One of them thought they were right, and the other one thought that they were right. And I said, guys, it absolutely doesn't matter who's right here. It doesn't matter. And I don't care who's right. Are you delivering value? Let's go talk to them. Right? And that's it. How do we do that? So I wrote them a guide, discussion guide, on how to actually talk to customers. If you guys want that, and to see how you would structure a conversation with your customers in a way to understand their context, I'll share that. I want to share it. Okay. You have to email me that at the end. So I'll share that with you. It gives you kind of a breakdown of how would you actually go about structuring your conversation in a way where we can actually get information that we can use to inform our strategy, okay? Instead of validating if our technology is right or wrong. Okay. So I just wanted to quickly, you guys, to just share with each other, on the partner, and I just want you to talk about who you think your customer is, right? And what assumption you have about them regarding product market fit. Sorry, there's a typo there. And how are you testing it? So, who's your customer? Right? What assumption do you have about them, and how are you testing that assumption? Just really quickly, just to generate some conversation with you guys, and then you guys can hear from other people where they're maybe stuck or having some challenges.
Hey, how's it going? One. Say Alex. That's
started. Okay. What are some of the assumptions that you heard? I'm curious. Another really challenging thing is really to identify what the key one is that's driving your entire model or your whole business is based off of. And the one that you need to test the quickest. Okay? Because we could probably identify multiple ones, but there's one that underpins all of them that your entire business model is predicated on. And that's the one that needs to be tested ASAP. As soon as possible. Okay? What are some of the assumptions that you guys have? I'm curious. Do we have some?
What do we have one?
Yeah.
For me, it's that people want to learn how to do small things faster with less mistakes, specifically typing.
Good. Good. That's a great one. Your business is built off of that idea.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. So yeah. So figuring out ways to test that with real, repeatable behavior. Okay. That's perfect. That's good. Anybody else want to share their assumption? Okay. Good. Well, if you want to come up and ask me, this is the assumption that I have about my business, and it doesn't make sense, and you can give me feedback if you'd like. But this is again why it's really, really challenging, right? We've got to be vulnerable. We've got to put ourselves out there. We've got to go into this area of the unknown within ourselves and also within the future. We're creating something. It's not easy to create something new, right? It requires actually a lot of vulnerability. It's super challenging. Yeah, it's really scary. But that's what it takes to do this game, play the entrepreneurial game in a way that's effective. Yeah, and you can increase the speed of it. You can do it the other way too, so it's also effective, or it's also been done that way. It just takes a lot more resources and time, I think. Yeah. You're just going to be at it a little bit longer, and you may run out of money, you may run out of energy, you may run out of time. Okay? So you got to go out there, you got to go engage with these customers, you got to go figure out what it is they need. Okay? It's one of the things that I think is really important. Got to have some humility. Yeah. Challenging. Challenging for us all. It's hard for me too. So, I've been practicing a little bit, but it's always an opportunity. Okay, that's it. So if you guys have any questions of me, there's my contact information. Email me. There's some information on my website. Me. Oh, it's an email. I got an email. But yeah, I'm happy to send you that guide as well too. If you guys want to take a look at how to write a discussion guide.
Yes.
What does it take? What does it actually take to write a discussion guide, and what kind of questions should I be asking my customers to get the information that I need? Okay? So I give you, you really want to start broad and you want to get specific, okay? You want to start with the context of their world and you want to go into the specific thing that you're doing for them. Without, if you can avoid talking about your particular product, and if you can avoid talking about the future, those are two really good things to start with. Again, because we're really optimistic about our future behavior, we want to present the best image of ourselves in the future. And we want to tell everybody about it. But our behavior is usually not indicative of our best selves in the future. We usually continue on the same behavioral path that we're on right now. Unless you're really on an evolutionary path and you're actually committed to evolving, then you might change. It's different. Not many people are doing that. Okay, so good. So email me and I'll send you that. That's it. Any questions? It's the questions though. This is the question time. Anything free, open, personal, professional, about your business, whatever, professional development.
You will be holding a masterclass tomorrow, right?
I am holding a masterclass tomorrow, I think. Yes. Yes. In the evening.
I would imagine that we will be going into the conversation guide that you will be sending us through the email and then working through it, or
Yeah, how do you create for your specific business?
could you
What
tell us
assumptions
more
do you
about
have?
how that's going to look like?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be this, but really much more in depth with your specific context, right? So it's what assumptions do you have about your business? Let's make sure that's the right assumption. How do we test that? And what's the best way to do that? All right. So it's kind of a double click on this with more specific context with what is your challenge or what you're challenging. All right. So taking that and making sure that you're testing the right assumption, that you're not too broadly focused. You've got the right range, right? Because usually product market fit is maybe we're trying to reach every customer, which is great, but we're not Procter & Gamble, and we're not Unilever, and we're not Coca-Cola, okay? So, reaching every customer on the planet is very challenging for an early stage startup, because we're very specific, very focused, and we actually have to learn what works and what doesn't work, and why or why not. And I think that's the challenge, right? If something works and we don't know why, it might actually not be that great. Yeah, because we don't know why. We just threw something at the wall and it stuck, right? We got lucky. But we don't know how to create that, we don't know how to repeat that, actually. We don't know how to create more value now, because we don't know. And then we get stuck on that particular idea or that thing, okay? So we want to, again, get focused on learning. How do we learn? How do we create an opportunity or a process of learning, and what's the best way to learn? How do we go ask and get that information back that actually determines strategically what we do? So we talk a little bit about strategy, assumptions, ground those assumptions, test those assumptions, how do we do that? And we can share with you some more examples of teams that I've worked with, companies that I've worked with, what's worked for them, what I've seen, what didn't work.
How applicable would you say this is when you're working with businesses rather than individuals?
Right. You have a particular stakeholder within the context of the business, right? Where they have needs and challenges, and you have a customer, right? So maybe the head of sustainability, maybe the purchasing officer, or maybe the HR manager, right? There is a customer, and they have a specific profile, and you have to target them specifically and figure out what they value, what they don't value, and how to deliver that. So B2B is no different than B2C. We're dealing with humans. It's the same game. If there's humans involved, then this process works, right? And I think that's probably a big reason why a lot of companies want to switch to robots. A lot easier to deal with, less more predictable. Yes.
So, in your experience, what is a business, company, corporation, small business, social business, whatever, that in your opinion applies the customer journey
Customer development.
best? National.
Best, yeah. I mean, I think you can look to a lot of, Spotify is one of the examples. I mean, they're doing a really great job. People that are really customer centric right now that I really admire. Airbnb, I think, was doing it for a little while. They're really committed to trying to figure out what that journey is and what that looks like. Really focus on the customer experience and how to deliver that. I think they're doing a good job. Facebook, LinkedIn, they've got a really great UX team over there, and they do really great customer development. One of my colleagues at the innovation firm took a UX research job over there, and I know he does exceptional work, and he asks exceptional questions, and he challenges people like crazy. So I know that they're probably doing really good for that team.
Can you explain with more details how did they do that? LinkedIn, for example, UX, customer development, from UX point of view.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Like online surveys or what?
No, you get people in the room and you watch them use your product. You just sit there and observe them. Eye tracking, you've got all kinds of different technologies to watch how people behaviorally, where they click and how they click and why they click, and then you can follow up with questions. And, watching people do things is exceptionally informative. You can learn a lot if you really observe what people do, without trying to say, oh no, you've got to click here, you've got to do this, you've got to click that. And that's what we do. We put our website up and oh, you're clicking the one spots over here, click this. That's the other stuff, it's great. Or with our apps, it works like this, it scrolls like this. Just watch them. And then say, oh, that's interesting, why did you do that? Ask the question instead of trying to tell them what to do. Oh, that was interesting. Tell me more about why you clicked that and why you didn't click that. Get curious about their behavior and why they do things and why they don't do things. And then you're going to build a product that it sounds conceptually very easy. Yeah, I'm up here talking about it. But again, we're attached to that. This is our baby. Like, no! Stop talking about my baby. We're protected. We want it to be right. It's like, okay, that's not going to help you build a business. That's all. be right. Just need to be the wrong kind of right. Good. No, that's good. That's a good question. I'll think about that too. Come up with some more examples. I think Google. I think Google does great work. I mean, as much as we want to bash on Google, they totally get it. They're doing exceptional. They're a $6 billion company for a reason. They have really smart people and they let them do the work. Yeah. Get out of their way, ask questions. So. Yes.
When it comes to the growth hypothesis, how can we figure out that? Should we ask potential consumers how do they expect to find out about our service, product? Or for example, if we make a hypothesis that we are going to grow word of mouth, let's say, via word of mouth, how can we figure out whether we are right or wrong?
Are you talking about projections? Yeah.
Yes.
Future projections.
Once we figure out what is customer problem and when we
if we're solving it,
we are solving it, but how to grow.
well, if you actually are solving somebody's problem, you're going to probably see some acquisition, right? You're going to see some people actually using it, and you're going to be able to hopefully track that over more than you'll be able to see visually acquisition, right? And then you'll either see it flatten, you'll see it drop, or you see it keep going, right? Well, if it drops, then we want to understand why, and what's going on, what's the symptom behind that, right? And then we can just start to project over time. I mean, I think the thing is that any future projection of anything at this point, I think, is a guessing game. I mean, it really is, to be honest with you. I mean, if we're taking historic data and we're using it to predict future experience, we just don't know. We really don't. We can take some educated guesses based on, I mean, there's a lot of science on how to do that, but I think, is it accurate? That's another question, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. It's just moving too fast. Things are really evolving really quickly. Right? This is why the learning loop is so fast. This is so important for the organization. Because you got to have a vision about where to go and what to do, but necessarily how you're going to get there, you're not necessarily sure. Right? Things are just moving much too quickly at this point in time. Right? So developing an opportunity to figure out how to learn, specifically around delivering value, is I think a much more solid strategy. You've got to create financial projections. Yeah, you've got to make some assumptions. And are those assumptions grounded in real behavior or not? The more that they're grounded in real behavior, the more I'll tend to believe them as an investor. Right? And you can say, oh, I had 300 customers last month, and I had 250 this month, and I went up to 500 this month, and you know, I'm seeing some, okay, it's giving me some confidence, right? That's grounded in real behavior. Right? Most investors know, most people know that a 5-year financial plan is a total shot in the dark. What they want to see is you're thinking about what assumptions you have about your business model, and are they grounded in something, or you just making shit up. That's what they want to see. They want to see your thinking. Right? They know the numbers are not going to be right. They've seen enough numbers to know that not every startup in the world goes like this. They know that. They know that, but they want to see your thinking and your critical thinking skills. And are you actually grounding your assumptions in real thought process and real behavior, real traction, we call it, right? Real reduction of risk, increasing traction. Remember that graph in the game? Okay. That's what they want to see. You're making a solid case for your numbers, not only right.
You mentioned it is very difficult to create behavior change, yet can you get back to some of your examples or your clients' examples when they did change their behavior for better?
Yeah, I would love to give you some. The first thing that comes to mind is the book by, what's it called? Switch, it's called. And it talks about really small incremental behavior change, right? Where are they currently at and how do we incrementally, very baby step, move them to this next point in time, right? If you want to create a new behavior for yourself, and we tried it. Just tried to create a new behavior for themselves. It's extremely challenging. My buddy was writing this, he used to write a running blog, and he said, how do you get people to run regularly? He's like, well, he did a lot of research on behavior and getting people, He's like, if you just get up in the morning and put your shoes on and never leave the house, he's like, that's perfect. If that's as far as you get, fine, then go back to bed. It's okay.
With your shoes on?
With your shoes on, yeah, just a reminder that you should actually be running right now. But start with the smallest possible human thing that you're capable of doing, sustaining over 10, 20. I said, okay, look, I want to do 20 push-ups a day. I was like, that's a lot. I can do that every day. I said, well, let's just start with one. I can do one push-up. I can do one. Tomorrow I'll do two. I do two tomorrow. Great.
Can you make 20 now?
I don't know. Yeah, but see, to sustain that over time, it takes a lot of work. Okay, so if you're asking your customers to make a monumental behavior change, or you have assumption that just doesn't fit their current behavior profile, that's a really risky bet. Yeah? That's what you gotta deeply understand, what motivates them, what they're doing, and why they're doing it, and how they're doing it. Because if you want behavior change, it's like, okay, first off, are the conditions right for that? Is the technology moving that way? Are markets moving that way? Are the environmental conditions moving for there actually be conducive to actually want to make that change? Right? So like peer sharing is a great, the sharing economy is a great example, right? If you ask people, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you sleep in somebody else's house or drive a car, what are you talking about? Absolutely not, So you've got to take other environmental factors into play as well too. So you've got to just say, what am I asking people to do, and how do I make them do that? It's the smallest thing that I can ask them to do. Usually, it's better to start already where we're at, and then with the adoption and use of the product over time, you create a feature set that actually allows them to move. That's actually beneficial and move to more value to it. It's a better way to meet them where they're at, and then create new opportunities for them to grow. Good, great questions, guys. Thanks. Thank you.
So we can go have some
drinks, yes. I feel like it's run out. I didn't time.